Hello, welcome back. This is That Mill podcast. Back again for another episode. We are welcome with a full house this evening. We are joined by the birthday boy, my partner in crime, the one and only Omar.
Hello, thank you, mate. You alright?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, another year older, another year wiser. So, look forward to giving some valuable content to the show today, as always.
Yeah, if you can get involved in the comments and tell us which one of those was a lie, then that would be great. So, let's go forward. We're joined by the one and only Joe Zampa. How you doing, fella? You all right?
I'm good, Mickey. Thanks. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Not too bad. We welcome back the one and only Alex. Sorry, the one and only Gracie. How you doing, fella? You all right?
I'm all right, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Well done on yours and Joe's show the other day.
Well, thank you very much.
So
it was quite enjoyable. We enjoyed doing that.
Yeah, it seemed to go down well with the audience. Nearly as much as we'll welcome back. I've just realised my daughter's giving me a shit cup. I just saw it now. I'm thinking it's not on. I think it's not on cup.
Mickey Simpson holding an Eeyore mug.
Love it.
Yeah. My daughter every time. Sorry, Stephen, I'll come to this. Right? Every time I go to do a show, my girl makes a coffee for me, right? And every time she knows I'm doing a show, she'll go make me in the most ridiculous cup out. And then she watches back to see whether or not I get the piss taken out of me. So you've fueled it for her there. So yeah,
wasn't it? It was frozen. Wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, she's done loads. My boy gave me a fucking cat-eared one the other day. But yeah. Anyway, welcome back to one of our stars of space, who's now transferred over and is on the wide screen. The one and only Stephen. How you doing, fella? You all right?
Yeah, good, Mickey. How are you?
I'm good, and I have to say thank you very much for stepping in last Thursday night for doing the show with a Middlesbrough fan. Madness. My boy, for those who don't know, I won't go into too much detail, but my boy was taken into hospital, and literally I gave Stephen about 40 minutes notice that not only was he going to be doing a show, he was going to be leading it, and he was going to be doing it on his Todd. Thanks to others, someone else who logged us all on, and it's a cracking show. I got back and edited it, and it was all done. My boy's fine. He's out of hospital now, still ongoing, but hey ho, it is what it is.
It's nice to.
Thanks very much to the NHS.
It's nice to have a little bit of company, Millwall company tonight for this show.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I thought I'd reward you by coming on a proper show where you can actually talk about Millwall rather than saying something about Millwall and get this look.
Still got an hour yet.
That's it.
Today, then obviously after Saturday as well, Mickey, right?
That's it. So let's start with you because I know you were here last week, but it's we might as well use your knowledge and get your reviews while we can because you're a busy man nowadays. So tell us Middlesbrough versus Millwall. Thoughts of the game, standout points. And we'll go round the panel while we're there before we take some topics what have been raised on Twitter.
Okay, well, bit of a damp squid, weren't it? Unfortunately, I mean, I didn't really go in with high hopes for the game, to be honest. I kind of thought, they're on a roll at home. I think their form's obviously speaking for itself at the minute, and I think they got defeated against Sheffield United in the cup. But aside from that, they've been a very good league side under Carrick since he took over. And, they seem to be going from strength to strength. The quality of their side is obviously very clear to see as well. So I kind of thought, if we nick a draw here, I knew it would be backs against the wall. I didn't really... I got all the negativity online afterwards because it's like, well, what does he have available to him? A lot of it is about recruitment, obviously, and lack of it since we let Phobie go, since we let, players leave and not really replace them. So, yeah, I mean, I've kind of written off in my head before the game. And I wasn't disappointed when we lost. Kind of expected it, like I said, and standout points from the game, there weren't many. Obviously, I think Fleming had that moment in the second half where he should have gone down. Everyone's seen it, everyone spoke about it since. I don't know if it would have been given, to be honest, because we always seem to be on the wrong side of them sort of decisions. But that was kind of the only bright spark aside from Styles running through in the first half 4 against 1 and managed to back heel it. So yeah, tough day at the office for us. And I think if I was if you said to me before last week 3 points, 1 win and 1 defeat, going into this Cardiff game after it, I would have took it, to be honest. And I think that should be what the attention should be now. Get focused on getting the result on Saturday against the side that just sat their manager. So yeah, wish us luck.
That's it, isn't it? Yeah, we don't do things easy. Joe, your thoughts on Middlesbrough, and if there's any standout points. I mean, you raised an interesting thing. What maybe come to at the end of your thoughts, but you raised an interesting thing, a bit controversial, on the Saturday night of Voglsammer, is he, what does he actually bring us? So we'll come to that on the end part of your bit, but yeah, if you tell us what your views are with the game and any standouts to you or anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game that we couldn't lose. We shouldn't have lost that game. I mean, if we want any chance of making it into the playoffs, we can't be losing to our rival team in that sort of top 6 position. A bit like Omar, wasn't sort of overly positive going into it, thinking we were going to go and win this. But I was hoping we'll at least nick a draw. But we didn't look like scoring at all, did we? We didn't create much, didn't create a lot, to be honest with you. Not many positives, a lot of negatives. Again, lack of creativity. I think Bradshaw recorded the least amount of touches out of every player on that pitch, which shows that he wasn't getting the ball. He wasn't getting any sort of balls put through to him. And ones that did get put through to him were up in the air. And he was getting beaten to it in the air. And I feel for Bradshaw because him being the only kind of real out-and-out striker we've got at the moment, I guess he's playing every single game. Most of the game, doesn't get sort of substituted often, but he often plays a lot. And he just looked really tired. He looked a little bit lethargic. He looked a bit off the ball a little bit, and a bit frustrated, I guess. It was a shame to see Saville on the bench rather than Stiles, because Stiles did look good in the Rotherham game, but that was against Rotherham at home. I think when you're playing against weaker teams and we need to break them down, I think someone like Stiles in the middle, alongside Mitchell, where it might be, will work really, really well for us. But when you're playing against a tough team, you really need Saville and Mitchell together. You need that kind of that spine in midfield where you're not necessarily bothered about what you're going to create, but you want to just control the midfield, control the game, and hopefully counter-attack or create something at the other end. But again, not many positives. The only positive, again, for me was Roman Esse. I really like the kid. I mean, he's very, very young. I think Wright mentioned it after the game in his kind of interview about how it's a shame that we're having to rely on an 18-year-old kid to come on and turn the game around for us. But at the end of the day, you're good enough, you're old enough, and I can't see why he can't be starting, to be honest with you. I think I'd rather have him there than on the right-hand side, cutting on his left foot, than Voglsammer. But again, we'll touch on that a little bit later, I'm sure,
Joe, just on your point about, sorry, Mick, explain that. You mentioned obviously we should have got a result or we should have been beating teams like that. I think the difference this year, though, mate, is we're beating teams below us. Like, if you look at the top 7, top 8, we've only beat 2 of them this season. We beat Watford twice.
Usually the way around, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think a little bit. I think the kind of our downfall lot. I don't know what the panel might think about this as well. Everyone here, but like, we're getting results against teams we should be beating this year because we've got that bit of quality, the likes of Fleming stepping up in them sort of games and obviously making real impacts against the lesser sides. But I think, if anything, like, you kind of, that's why I say I write off a little bit, because I back us against the likes of Cardiff to get a result. I back us at home against Rotherham to turn them over and win quite comfortably this season, because I think there's that confidence going into games where we're better than sides. I think maybe you could say on Saturday, is it boiled down to lack of, that quality in the side. But I think, kind of write off a defeat against a team like Middlesbrough. I know obviously we should go there and be kind of, but it's a 46 game season. If you beat the teams below you, and hopefully that means 13, 14 teams worse than us, we should be up there still. I mean, I know we need to pick up points, you're right, but maybe Saturday is a bit more of an important game. I don't know what you think about that.
Just on that, sorry to interject there. I actually think the biggest problem is, but then it turns into a positive, is if you look at the teams that we've played at the top of the league, we've played most of them away, and we all know away from home, I don't think we set up right necessarily away from home. We do go to games not to lose, which, okay, Burnley, maybe you might go there to try and limit them, but I don't think outside of Burnley and perhaps Sheffield United, the teams in the league are of outstanding quality. Really, the teams are much of a much, and away from home we don't set up right. We've lost at Norwich, we've lost at Burnley, we've lost at Sheffield United, we've lost at Middlesbrough. Okay, we beat Watford, but we beat Middlesbrough at home. We've got Norwich to come to the Den. We've got Sheffield United to come to the Den. Burnley to come to the Den. I think we're more likely to pick up points against those teams at home. And I think you're right in the sense of you can't write off games before you go into them. But on Saturday, I think it'd have been tough to find many Millwall supporters that would have expected us to go there and get a result because it's not at the Den.
Very
No, I
valid.
think
Yeah,
you got
I think it's very
I
valid
agree.
point there.
And also to that point as well, Stephen saying that, I think away from home, when you look at last season, we were probably picking up more wins away from home because we had faster players on the counter, whether that be Ollie Burke, Jed Wallace, Bury was playing quite a bit, Mason Bennett was playing quite a bit. We had a Phoebe who was playing quite a bit. He ain't too bad, he can stretch his legs out, can't he, a little bit and get beyond the defence. Whereas this season, I just don't see is any pace there whatsoever, to get behind the defence. Bradshaw's not blessed with pace. Voglsammer's not got any pace. Fleming's not very quick. So we've got no real pace at all on the counter. So if we try and set up in a system to try and counter-attack, especially away from home, we've got nothing to get them on the counter. Even on set pieces, I don't think we're that good on set piece like that we used to be. I mean, last couple of seasons, Hutchison, Cooper were scoring goals quite often in set pieces, free kicks and corners. Whereas this season, very rarely. I mean, there's an argument to say, okay, people have been rough handling Cooper a little bit on set piece and they're kind of wised up to him now. But even so, there's other players in the team. There's Wallace, there's Hutchison that should be contributing. I know Cresswell has early in the season, but we need to get better in set pieces. If that's what's the scoring away from home,
I think on that though, sorry to both Steve. I think also as well, I think the delivery is not there from Jed Wallace this season as well, which I think is a key factor in that.
And the assists, Omar, the point you're making is really good. Where Fleming's come in and got goals, there's no one there getting the assists as what Jed did. Jed used to get a lot of assists for us, didn't he? And there's nothing coming in from, there's no decent crosses, and it's just a real bit of shit show, really, when you kind of, sort of strip it back and look at it,
With Fleming, I mean, I know, you want players on the edge of the box for knockdowns and things and to have a shot from the edge of the box. But for me, I would rather see Fleming take the corner, take the free kicks that are out wide. I know we all know he's going to take the free kicks in front of goal because he's going to shoot. But when they're out wide or corners, I would rather Fleming with that bit of quality to be taking the set piece rather than hoping, or it's almost as if you've got Fleming on the edge of the box, you're almost saying, well, we're probably not going to create anything on the first contact, we're going to hope to create on the second contact, which you're gambling on the ball dropping to Fleming, it might drop elsewhere. And on the point that you made, Joe, I think it's interesting you say about not having any pace. It's if we've spoke about this so many times. If we had McNamara and Malone playing in a 5-back, we'd probably have a little bit more. That's what Rowett wanted. He wanted the pace to come from his wing backs, and that's
first
where
show
we've
and
gone
he's
wrong.
off.
That's where we've gone wrong.
He's right though. He's right with saying that. I think also with the dead balls as well. I think that's why I raised it because you got Honeyman taking them, and it's he's got a good quality of ball, but there's no whip, there's no pace to it, and then you've got Saville the other side standing up to the back post, and it's effective to a point. But I think that's what we're missing with Wallace's delivery from corners, which is why you're seeing Cooper.
He's the whip him in, didn't he? So,
and even Cresswell, when he scored the first 2 goals at the start of the season, there were good deliveries in the box. But aside from that, you've got no real opportunity for players to attack it. Aside from that, it's normally knockdowns in the box and 50-50 scraps and stuff in that second contact. They're
I mean, some of the comments on Twitter, what we'll come to in a little bit, pretty much touch on there for your views on there. But Alex and then Stephen, I suppose we'll come to you because you sort of told thing. But any outstanding thoughts on Middlesbrough away?
No, do you know? I think you've covered most of them there, mate. I think the distinct lack of attacking quality. I mean, that's the thing that stands out, doesn't it? I think from pretty much every away game this year, it's been the same story. But it's interesting what possibly was said there about maybe switching back to a back 5 for away games. Maybe just for that, to add that bit of pace down on both sides. You get Danny with the pace, you get Scott Malone with the pace, and you've also got particularly with Scott Malone, you've got someone who can deliver balls quite well. He takes a lot of set pieces when he plays. So that's a possible option. But, I mean, if you think we scored 12 goals away from home, it's nowhere near enough. For a team that are wanting to be in contention for the playoffs, I think Reading are the only side who are in that hunt, if you like, that have scored less goals away from home than us. And you can't go in to games, whether it be at home, whether it even be away from home, you can't go in expecting to go out to keep a clean sheet and then that be enough. You know, you've got to go and score goals. You've got to be there to try and create enough to score goals. And don't forget, 4 of those 12 goals came in one game at Preston.
And
so
two
of those goals were own goals, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, 2 of those goals were own
exactly.
goals as well.
What's won me over, though, I will say, as a bright spark a little bit, George Long's my number 1 now. I will put that out there. And I think his performances, against Middlesbrough on Saturday, I was quite impressed with him, to be honest. I thought if you want to take some bright sparks from it, he made a big save in the first half. That sticks in the memory. And I think, for me, I think he's offered a lot, I think, now to the side. His distribution, we all talk about it. But I think that's also why Ray wants him in there to get the ball quick up the field. But yeah, I think that is a bright spot from Saturday for me, George Long. Like, I think he's stepping up to the plate a bit and really making a kind of adaptation to his own, I think.
I definitely think he's a player that's growing in confidence.
Definitely, 100%.
He's definitely growing in confidence, which is key.
But he was never a shit keeper. That's where, you know, a lot of people go, oh yeah, he's number 2. No, he was never a shit keeper. He was always brought in to end up at some point of replacing But he's never been a shit keeper. But the trouble is, I suppose, with anything, that if you haven't been doing it for a while, then you just need to settle down into it, have a good run. What's he had now, 10, 12 games?
When did he come in? He came in Blackpool at home in October, didn't he? So yeah,
so more than that, probably 15 games or so, isn't it?
Yeah.
And clean sheets have been stacking up as well.
Yeah.
Clean sheets
and they always help. You know, because it does go down to goal difference.
Every time the goalkeeper keeps a clean sheet, his confidence is going to grow. You know, and I think, you know, don't forget, other than the 2 seasons that he's been on the bench almost here, right? He was the first choice at Hull in the year they got promoted. So he's a
good keeper.
You
can't fault him. He's at the right age. Yeah, and at the right age. Stephen, then.
28,
yeah, something like that. Stephen, any standout comments what haven't been mentioned yet on Middlesbrough before I throw you boys some talking points what we've received on Twitter tonight?
Not quite. Not that I think this was mentioned by Joe, but just to touch on Romain Esse, I think Watford brought on a young 17-year-old who scored on his debut over the weekend. I don't know who it was, but he come on and scored. Again, not comparing here, but as Joe said, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you're good enough to be playing, you should be playing. From what I've seen of him I think second half of Sheffield United and what we saw of him on Middlesbrough, he is ready to play. You don't want him to go down the Zach Lovelace route and bugger off elsewhere. Get him playing first team football. Get him, you know, showing us what he can do. And I think as Joe said as well, I think sometimes I'd rather have him out there than some of the options we have out wide, because they just don't look like they can beat a player. At least he looks like he's confident. He's not got the baggage of 20 games without a goal or no assists. He just wants to play football.
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same sort of way as Zach Lovelace was when he first come on against Palace, where he looked as if he had something about him, and then I think the Millwall hostile crowd sort of got to him a bit, and it sort of thing. But this guy seems to have something with him, doesn't he?
This is my point, though, because I was thinking this is why I love and hate our fan base, or some of them. But Tyler Bury's the scapegoat in a minute. It gets on my tits. But Bury's not. Bury's going to be that spark. I think Eze is a similar sort of player, which is why I think Rowett's almost doing the right thing. I agree with both of you. You can see he's clearly back. He's a different option, offers that bit of pace and a bit of talent on the ball. But it takes 2 games where he plays and doesn't really do much, and then the fan base starts to kind of flip a little bit, especially on our wingers.
I would say
I'm going to throw something to you. Hang on 1 sec, Steve. I'm going to throw something what Stephen said on the show the other week, right? Out of all the other teams in the Championship, right, would Bury make any of their starting 11?
No, I don't think he even makes our 11. That's not the point, though. I think, but this is why I think with Eze, I think he could. I don't know. I think he's obviously got a bit of talent on the ball and a lot better on the ball, and he seems to have a bit more quality. But I've not seen a lot of him to fully categorise that and say that. But I got the fear in my head is what I'm making there. It's like he plays 2 or 3 games, and it's like, oh, he's rubbish, or he doesn't do this, or I think with Bury he's hot and cold as well. But I think Eze has that tendency in him by the looks of it, where he could be hot and cold naturally for a 17, 18-year-old.
What I would say on that though, sorry, what I would say on that though is Tyler Bury's 22, 23.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
the same age as Zian Fleming. And I'm not comparing the two because there is no comparison. SA 17. If the fan base are going to, I agree, sometimes the supporters, I don't agree with booing our own players, especially booing him in a game we were 3-0 up in a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was a poor choice.
Yeah.
But the fans are going to let, Paul Ifield got it years ago, that the players are going to get that. But the difference is, I think SA is 17 years old, and I think the fans can see that. I think with Bury, he is a little bit older. Yes, he might not have as much experience as other players, but he should be coming on and developing and being able to, add a little bit more to his game. Whereas I still think, he's got the mentality of I'm up and coming, I'm still young. He needs to develop. I think SA...
I just want to say a very, very quick one. I mean, I don't want to sort of talk about Bury too much because I think we've sort of done that, time and time again, and everyone sort of says the same thing. But I think with Bury, there's no denying he's a good player. He's a great dribbler of the ball. If his confidence is up, he can really make things happen, and he can frighten defenders when he's running at them. I think what the Millwall fans don't particularly like in him, and I think it's because it's not the Millwall type of player in that he doesn't work hard. He shows a little bit of disinterest, especially off the ball. You see, he doesn't really sort of track back. He's not really making an effort to press a fullback or try.
But we don't know if that's what Gary's telling him, though, do we?
I don't think so. I don't think for a second Gary's going to say to him, "I don't want you to press. I don't want you to do. I don't do that." It's just simple things tracking back. He's kind of pointing the finger to everyone. So what it is, I think, it's his demeanour. It's the way he is. It's the way he presents himself. He doesn't give off the right kind of attitude. You want somebody that's going to run through walls for you and and bleed for the shirt. He doesn't give us that. But that being said, on the ball, he looks very good and he can make things happen for us. The difference with Eze is he is very, very green. He plays without fear. You can see he's got a different mindset to Bury. He wants the ball. He's focused. Like the ball comes to him, he'll get the ball, he'll play it back quickly. He'll get the ball. He'll turn a defender, make something happen. He looks like he's on it. He looks like he wants to make a difference. He wants to kind of try stuff out and not afraid to make mistakes. Whereas Bury at the moment, I think he feels a bit confused sometimes with what he's doing. Like he's almost like doesn't know whether he should be sort of further up the pitch, whether he should be marking someone. You hear other players telling him where he should be all the time, and he looks very confused. I think with Eze, it's just a different kind of mindset, different attitude. And I think he's like a little firework. I think you just got to just let him go and just see what he does. And I'd love to see more of him. I haven't seen enough of him. I mean, it could just be a couple of lucky games where he looks really good. But let's get him started. I'd rather have him on the right-hand side instead of Voglsammer. Voglsammer, without ruining the guy too much, yes, he works hard. Yes, he kind of puts himself about a little bit and tracks back. He doesn't offer us nothing going forward. I don't see him putting great balls in. I don't see him creating chances for others. I don't see him creating chances for himself. He doesn't offer us anything in the attacking third. And I just see it's pointless having him there. I really, really do. But for some reason, Rowett likes him. I would play him on the right, I would play him on the left. And he seems to start more often than not. I don't recall him being on the bench often and coming on. He's there to start. And Rowett sees something in him. And I think that is purely for his defensive attributes where he likes to track back and help out,
I do wonder if Danny Mack was left isolated one-on-one without a backup. I love Danny Mack one-on-one. I think it's the best strength, like defensively to the byline. When the player tries to take him on, he reads the ball so well. But I agree with you there a little bit. I do think he's his backup for him. But just to end on Bury, though, I think the best I've seen Bury play is away from home for Millwall. That's just my kind of thought in my head. Watford away, I think for 65 minutes before he blew his gasket a bit towards the end, the best I've seen Bury play, tracking back on the ball, carrying us up the pitch. I think the problem with these sort of players and the wide players is our pattern of play. Like I think that is like we don't have a pattern of play. It's literally hitting long. A lot of it is that.
Omar, to your point there, why does Bury do that at Watford away, but doesn't do it consistently, especially at home? Do you think it's the boo boys that get to him, where he's almost thinking,
hog a touchline at the dead?
I don't give a shit about you. I'll do my own thing. And the more you're gonna boo me, the more I'm gonna go the other way. I mean,
It sounds pathetic. It sounds ridiculous even coming out of my mouth, but it's like I think hog the touchline at the den and not have a thick skin. I think it can get to players very quickly, and even our own. I think there is that element there to it, which is what I worry about for Eze. I want Eze to succeed. I think he looks a great player, and I definitely see it. But I just think like you leave him out to dry on the touchline in front of the East stand for 45 minutes, and I don't know. You see him come off a different player.
I don't
sometimes.
know. I mean, I think on the East stand they're very unforgiving. But one thing I must say about them over there, that lower block especially, if you give 100%, if you're working hard and you're putting those tackles in and you're trying, they don't care if you mess up or you lose the ball for a throw in or you make a bad pass, whatever. As long as they can see you're trying, at least they can see you're working hard and you give it everything. They'll forgive you and they'll give you as much time as you need. You know.
I think the problem is that I think a lot of with Bury is that it's fans' frustration to the way Gary Rowett plays football.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You can
I
see
think you're right there.
Yeah, I mean, and what I mean by that is that we can all see that we need a substitution. We can all see that something's not working. We need either positioning changing or we need a couple of subs on and change the way up. You know, like this is our game to go get, fucking put players on, let's go for it. Rowett just likes to sit back and maybe a lot of the time he'd rather go for a point than lose, which I understand. But us, but with us, we would rather always go all out, and if we lose, we lose. But obviously, we'd always like to go all out, and I think that's the problem you've got. Is that I do think that Bury's probably told to play in a certain position, and possibly don't come back too far because we need you to make a break, and maybe Bury hasn't got lots and lots of long running breaks on him, so they want to try and cut them down to 30, 40, 50 yards maybe rather than 70, 80, 90 yards if he tracks back too far. Don't know. At some point I'd love to interview Gary and just find out what makes him tick. What's his what is his style of play? What's he say to the players at half time? What's he say at the players at at full time? Beginning of the game and stuff like that. It'd be great to get, but hey ho, we live in a dreamland. But yeah,
on that, I think there is frustration from the fans with where Tyler Bury is concerned, but I also think it's because, we all talk about it, pace at this level. If you really got a real raw pace, you're a threat, and I think Bury has that. And when you see him skip past player, I mean, when he's on it and he skips past people, he goes past them for fun, and he just leaves them behind. Yeah. And he's done it on a few occasions. It's just that I think the supporters, when he has a bad touch or it's not quite working, I feel like he's perhaps targeted a little bit more because the fans expect him to be the one to change the game. He's the game changer, and when it doesn't work, it's worse than perhaps if, I don't know, Bradshaw was to give the ball away or whatever, because he's not the game changer.
Stephen,
I've got a follow up for you in a sec.
Do you think it's a build up for his laziness though? Because sometimes, lots of players lose the ball and give the ball away, but when you're not looking like you're trying too hard, you're not really tracking back, or you're not really putting the tackle, and then you mess up and lose the ball, you kind of give up. You think, well, fuck's sake, what's the point of having you then? If you're not going to give us anything on the attacking third, and you're not going to help out defensively, and that's probably why they get on his back a little bit. I'm sure they'll let him slack off as much as he wanted to if he got that ball every single time and done something with it more often than not.
You were going to say something.
I must be the only one that thinks he's not lazy. I actually don't think Tyler Bury.
I don't think he's lazy.
I've seen a lot more lazy wingers at the Den than Tyler Bury. I don't think he's lazy at all.
Do you know what though? It's not that he's lazy. It's as Joe said. It's his demeanour. When it's not going his way, it's kind of like, all right, fine.
Wetting fingers.
Yeah. I don't think he's that character at all. I really don't. I really don't see it. I take the point because I know I've seen lazy players play for Millwall. I know exactly what you guys are getting at and what you're saying there, but I don't think he is lazy at all. And I think also that's what I mean. I think he's a scapegoat. He's the new Alan Dunn a little bit, a right back a little bit. It's it's easy kind of going right.
There's a few occasions I've seen him going for 50-50s and he bottles it. He pulls out of it. I think.
Yeah, but I personally, I think. Yeah, but Millwall type of player. Here we go again. But we say it so many times. But the thing is, I think that the kid is a young kid with how kids are this day and age. He's got a little bit of something about him within football. He's obviously, I don't think he's on bundles of money, but he's probably taken a pay rise from where he was. He's probably on, maybe 800,000, maybe 1,500 quid a week, maybe a little bit more. I don't know what it is with bonuses, right? And all of a sudden he's come into it and he's a bit, do you know what I mean? He feels a bit and all that. And I think, you've got to look at it and go, has that taken its effect on him? Because in his Instagram posts and all that, it doesn't come across, he's out with his pals and he's out with this and that, but he doesn't come across as a real Flash Harry sort of player. So I just wonder if he's a bit shy and he's just, if you were a bit shy person, would you go in, on a risk of getting tackled as such, especially when you're trying to play? Let's be honest, the problem with when Lewis and John played with us, it was consistency. We weren't playing him enough games to get him in his flow. And it's sort of the same with Bury. We sort of play him on and off as an impact player. So we've got to make a decision. Do we give him a run of 10, 15 games of starting every game and seeing what he does? Or do we make the decision that actually he's better as an impact player coming on at 60, 65 minutes and fucking terrorising the tired legs?
I think he must know, and this is just my opinion, and I think this is the opinion of Gary Rowett. He was forced to play Tyler Bury last year because we had about 10 injuries. We had no subs. We were often going without a full bench. He had no option but to play him. Yeah, we all know in the summer Rowett tried to build a different squad, fine. But he's now back in a position where he has to play Bury, or he has to have him involved when he's fit, because he doesn't have any other pace and he doesn't have really many natural wingers. And we'll come on to this with transfers, if two wingers are signed in the January transfer window, Tyler Bury is a bit part player from now until the end of the season. And I think Bury knows that.
I think what's got to be remembered, though, right? It's only his second full season in terms of any involvement. You think he went out on loan last year to Hartlepool, right? That's League Two. Big difference between League Two and the Championship, and he was doing well when he was there. The loan got cut short, obviously, because of the Jed speculation in January, and he came into the first team fold. But he's going straight into Championship football. I personally think he should have maybe gone out on loan. Should have been able to get a bit more of an experience, toughen him up a bit more. Go to some even go back to League Two, maybe, just to toughen it up a bit more. Because to me, I think he lacks that bit of toughness. He lacks that bit of, and he lacks that bit of what you need, I think, at Championship level.
I think,
and he could go out on loan, and then he could do wonders as and when he come back, like we've seen with Danny Mack, and like I think we'll see next year, particularly with Alex Mitchell and someone like that.
I think the thing is with Essay is what you call it, is you can see that he's got a football brain about him. Probably misspent youth playing fucking FIFA and everything else, but he sees. Well, listen, it's true, mate. But he sees opportunities opening up before they've opened. Like he sees someone trying to make a run, so he'd do a quick pass, do a quick 1-2, and get the ball up. And I think going forward, he could be a phenomenal player. Going forward, but go on, Omar.
Just before you tangent off, by the way, to transfers or questions, we've only drawn 7 games in 26 this season. If you told me before the start of the season we draw 7 in 26, I know you're saying Rowett sets up negatively. I would have took that hands down, considering the last 2-3 seasons when we got 5 draws in a row during lockdown and stuff like that. If you said to me, and also a lot of them come in the last about 10-15 games, we can argue injuries and trying to drag out results. But if you told me at this point, after 26 games, we'd only draw 7, I'd have bit your hand off at the start of the season for that. I do think we go for a bit more this season compared to previous years. I think the legacy of Rowett and the last couple of seasons, I think that's what sits in our heads. But, 7 draws in 26 is not bad going for a Gary Rowett side, I'll tell you.
Absolutely.
No, well, with point, no?
No, he has got a point. He always has a point, and that's why he's on the show, mate.
That's due to the formation change. We're not getting as many clean sheets, and we're probably winning more, as opposed to drawing all the time, and kind of going for it more. but also we are much higher up in the league than we normally are as well. So it's like law of average. Yeah, you can lose a few, but if you're winning a few, you're gaining more points rather than just drawing them, aren't you? So
yeah, we'd argue about that on the show, wouldn't we, in the past, definitely. But yeah, go on, Mickey, take us off onto different.
Well, all I'm going to do is there's a couple of other points and all that what I want to go through, but the first one's what I want to go to is I put a message out on Twitter earlier, and obviously we are trying to be an interactive show, and obviously we're not live, we are pre-recording this, but we've got a couple of points come in which are fairly good points, and they're just things what I want to put there and see what's what. Mike Willis from Twitter, MWillis212. Our transfer policy, letting two forwards leave the club and clearly not trusting Malik or Leary, and not, is it Leary? Yeah, it is Leary, isn't it? Leahy, yeah. And not having a player lined up is mental. Saving grace, we've only got Cardiff away before the window shuts.
But yeah, managerless. Have they got a manager yet? I saw Warnock's going to get
they sacked Hudson, didn't they? Mark Hudson, I think.
If Warnock goes in,
Hudson 3 months after giving the job on a permanent basis.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think.
What's your thoughts on that?
I think I've obviously had a few tweets and stuff about the transfer policy, and a few people would reply back to me with some interesting points. I think that the guy there, Mike, was right. If you're going to let players go in key positions, you have to have an option. There has to be someone lined up. Now, whether that's, whether they have got someone lined up, but they're waiting, like we sometimes have to wait for one club to do a transfer and then players start to move. It's a bit of a snowball effect. That might be the case. But if that doesn't happen, you're back to last week of the transfer window and scrambling around. I personally think it was the right call to let Afobe go. Personally, I think he was starting to look a little bit leggy. He's obviously was one of the higher earners, and I think for someone that can't really play in a team that does press and like what Bradshaw and perhaps Fleming does, I think that was the right move. But to leave us with just one striker, I think it's very poor management. I also, on the transfer situation, and it really, really bugs me that Gary Rowett gets absolutely hammered on Twitter and on message boards about our transfer policy. He is not the one. He is not the one that's negotiating for players. He is not the one that's got the purse string for players. I think Antonio Conte come out and said he wanted the sporting director at Spurs to come out and do a press conference because he's always faced. He goes, I'm always faced with the questions. Why do these guys never do it? Because Rowett is going to the board. I am convinced going to the board and telling them I need to be backed. I need X, Y, Z to give me the best chance to get to the Premier League. But because he's the man in front of the camera, in front of the journos, he's the one that gets hammered. It's not his fault.
And you can't say that. You can't say that.
I think we're quite. I agree. Obviously, Alex Aldridge has come in as a director of football / head of recruitment.
Football operations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But I think with that, do we know for sure? I agree with you. His likelihood is, I know he's not the one that does the negotiations. He's not the one that does the contracts, but he might be getting offered players and going, not for me. We don't know. There's probably there's two sides to that, but you don't know for sure that.
For those who don't know, when I was found on the board, the way they used to work then
you found the board
was madness, wasn't it? I never knew that. No, I didn't. I didn't think you did. I'll keep it quiet. Yeah, I'll keep it quiet. Yeah, only ever the second one, but yeah, and I ruined the position. They don't have it anymore. Basically, when I was there then, and I never got involved with it because I always said I wanted. I like that. Not knowing about players who are coming and potential coming and all of that, but they used to at the beginning of the season used to have a meeting to discuss who their targets were, which targets they were going to go for in the first transfer window, and then who they were going to go for in the January transfer window, and obviously look at the longer term players they were interested in and watch and everything else, and that was normally done through Steve Kavanagh and. The recruitment people, the academy people, whatever, the scouts, etc. And there was a meeting where the manager would suggest, and they go. But I do know that Alex is very, very, and our Alex here is very, very, very stats orientated. Like literally, it will be what do you want a player to do? Well, I need him to be right wing, but I need him to be able to play here, and go forward and go back. And then the stats here look and go, well, we can go for this player, that player. That's how it was. And I think that's probably how it is. But I agree with Stephen that I don't think Gary Rowett, unless he's got a knowing of the player, that he will be making, any real communication. He might go watch him, but I don't think it's in the communication side of it will be.
Maybe I have blind faith, and I don't know why I based that. Maybe on seeing Fleming signing last summer, and I'm kind of thinking, we've done something good there. Like I don't think we'd let Afobe go unless we have at least a couple of targets in mind. But the thing is, though, Afobe played the last couple of games. Maybe he might have been brought as a sub. He probably wouldn't have started the last couple of games. But the thing is, we are fucked if Bradshaw gets injured. That's the fact. Like if Bradshaw gets injured now, and it's mad that we're relying on Bradshaw in the first place.
Well, you see,
we're trying to be that team that gets upset.
I've got to agree, Omar. Actually, I don't think they'd have let him go without having someone lined up. I mean, I've been covering the club now for 4 or 5 years now. They never would let someone leave unless they had a plan, unless something was in the pipeline.
Well, I mean,
they wouldn't let him go.
As well, Mickey. Like just with that as well, like it's great business decision. You got 15 grand a week allegedly sitting on the bench.
Yeah.
You don't want him sitting on the bench. You want 15 grand a week on the pitch. So like, if he's not going to play and Rowett's not having him anymore, and it's not worked out the second time round, you're going to let him go and write his wages off and let him go to Al Hilal or whatever the club it is he went to abroad. It's
and scored.
The thing is with that, the only other thing I would say is that a small part of me has a feeling that Afobe might have. I don't know if that was actually planned to happen at the point it did, because Alafi had only just been shown the door. Or maybe not shown. That's probably harsh. Alafi was allowed to leave. He's signed, and then 3 days later we lose another striker in Afobe. I think the plan may have been to let Afobe go this window. But I think perhaps it all happened a little bit quicker than maybe the club expected. That's the only thing the only saving grace I've got.
It's probably not as bad as what it is. We make it look like 2 have left. We haven't replaced them. We have signed Imaku from Shamrock Rovers. And it's unfortunate he's injured at the moment. He'll be out for a few more weeks. But I truly believe he would have come into the fray quite soon, quite quickly. He's as frustrated as we are to see him. I think Imaku wants to play. So I think really when you think about it, you let Alafi go. We brought in a Maka, which I think is a massive step up from Alafi. And then with Afobe going back to Stephen's point there, I think that is to free up some wages because they've got some targets and they need that wage budget in order to bring some players in. Now, the unfortunate thing is they've got a list of players they're targeting. Maybe Jamal Lowe is one of them. It hasn't been confirmed, but it could be one of them and we lost out to him. The next person is this Ogbean. Is it Ogbean for Rotherham?
The Rotherham guy.
My understanding of Jamal Lowe was that as never a thing. My understanding of that is that it was a non-starter. My understanding of that is that was a non-starter. He always seems to be linked to the club, but from my understanding, he wasn't.
The Rotherham player you're mentioning about, I got told by a source I trust, fucking with what they say, that it's a done deal. But
to where?
I don't know. To us. But he's not the prolific striker you want. He can play right wing, which I suppose he said.
Scored 7 or 8 goals this season, which is he's got a few assists as well. But the problem is, it was out of us and Swansea that looked like he's going to be signing for. And at the moment, it's kind of 50-50. But I've just heard recently, in the last day or two, I think Club Rouge are after him now. And he's got the opportunity to play with, and I think Scott Parker's the coach there, isn't he? Head coach at Club Rouge. So he's got an English-speaking manager. They're in the Champions League, I think, aren't they? So, there's opportunities to play abroad in the Belgian league. They could probably pay 3 or 4 times what we can pay him on salary. So if you were him, what would you do? You've got Swansea, Millwall, or Club Rouge over in Belgium. So the chances are neither Millwall or Swansea will get him, and he'll be another target all the fans hope to get, and we end up losing to Club Rouge. So the trouble is,
I wouldn't take the weather of staying in Wales or staying in England. I'd go to Belgium.
Which
Yeah,
I,
whether
think,
here-
well, I wouldn't.
Aren't,
I'll be staying here. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, hey, it is.
aren't Swansea, aren't they? I think Burnley are after one of their players, and have offered I think
Burnley
three or
signed,
four
didn't
million
they?
pounds.
I mean, a lot of people are talking it, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was told before this window opened that he was our player, and I went, really? And it was like, yeah, he's definitely our player. It's all been sorted, blah blah blah. And you're like, all right, okay, we'll wait and see.
Back to the initial tweet though about the question: should Leahy and Abdulmalik be in the squad? Yes,
Absolutely.
I think so. Why not?
I think we should
At least
have a go.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
You got nothing to lose if you don't try and do it. I mean, there's nothing to lose. You might as well give them a go.
Here we go. We've got. That's it, Mr. HK. Mr. HK85 on Twitter. This is going to be a good one for you boys. Is this, especially Omar, is this the softest line side? Seeing the goal we gave away on Saturday, if that was Tony Craig or Alan Dunn in that situation, that ball would have gone into row Z. There is no dark arts in this team.
Don't say especially me, Mr. Not a Millwall type player to my side over here. I'm with John on a lot of points as well, to be fair. But maybe go to Joe first.
Yeah, go on then, Joe.
I think the game's changed a lot now, isn't it, over the years? You see what it's like now. You can't put the tackles in that you once could without getting a yellow card. And once you get a yellow card, you're very certain to get sent off. I think Rowett has sort of changed us from the Neil Harris days where we were quite aggressive on the front foot, up and at them. You know, he likes our players to be a little bit more sort of composed, a lot more calmer. And sometimes that kind of plays to our advantage because we do play some good football when we're playing quite relaxed and calm, don't make any mistakes. I think that one with Murray Wallace was a little bit of a one-off there. I felt from him a little bit. I think he was a little bit unlucky in the first challenge. The player then got lucky. I think he slipped over, couldn't get back on his feet again. The guy went round him and scored. So you could put it down to a bit of a freak incident, a bit of a one-off. I don't think it was a lack of aggression or determination from Murray Wallace because we've seen him in the past. They're very committed.
I understand where you're coming from, but that ain't the fucking question. The question is this team, hang on, Stephen, is this team that, because technically what you just said at the beginning of your answer there, yeah, Joe, pretty much answers why Bury probably plays the way he does. Because you don't want to get yellow. Hang on. You don't want to get yellows. You don't want to do this. So he plays the way he does, where he doesn't necessarily go full and in. But the question is this team a softer team than what Millwall's been used to in the past? I think
in the past, the Millwall style was a 4-4-2, very direct. And what I'm saying is you had to play with aggression. You got to play with that kind of on the front foot attitude, and you got to win your tackles, and you're not going to win games with skill, so you win it with aggression, determination, don't you? And being direct and hitting the ball long and winning your headers and whatever. I think where we've evolved now as a team, we're playing a bit more football, playing the ball on the ground. We've got players that are tough. I mean, Billy Mitchell, George Saville, Fleming, these guys like a tackle. Honeyman, Jesus Christ, Hutchison, Cooper, they all get stuck in. McNamara, we ain't a soft team. Trust me. We can get up if we want to. But the point I'm making is Rowett wants us to play with our brains rather than our brawn.
Brawl. That's it.
I think that's why we're probably seeing a very different Millwall side than what we have done over the years. What I can't forgive is, and I hate targeting Bury because I love him as a player, is that kind of lack of kind of determination, drive to put those tackles in, to make those decisions. That is what's not excusable. To be collected is a different way of thinking rather than not trying or not putting the tackle in.
Yeah.
I think
Stephen,
the point you make not necessarily. I don't think we're necessarily soft. I think Joe's right. We do have some harder players, but I definitely think the dark arts in football is something that we just don't do. We've all mentioned it. It was all on Twitter. If Fleming goes down, give the referee a decision to make for a penalty. Yeah. I think when George Saville plays, George Saville is the one player that you see in the middle that if they're on the counter, he'll have them. He'll take them out and he'll take the booking and that's that. But we don't have enough players that do those types of things. And I think that's where I think in the past, with a lot of our players, like for example, Neil Harris was an absolute master at buying a free kick, buying penalties, taking time out of the game. Morrison used to bring the ball down in the corner, down at the home end, and we'd win corner after corner after corner, and it was the crowd got on their side. I don't think we have the players that can do the darker side of football very well. Rowett has, as Joe said, has got us to play with our brains, but sometimes playing with your brains means doing what it takes in games sometimes, and I think we've come away from that.
Yeah. I think this little team. I'm glad you name dropped Saville, because I think you're right. I think Saville's the best at that, which is why I'd always have Saville on the side, because he buys free kicks, does them cheap fouls, he's perfect at it. And we'll go to Alex afterwards, but I think on the question though, where you posed the question, I think this Championship Millwall side will beat a lot of previous Championship Millwall sides in a game if you put up 90 minutes against each other. Technically, this team is a million times better than what we've had previously, and I think that's where the game is nowadays. Don't get me wrong, we still can turn up against Watford and do them and get under them, and we can. And the reason we beat Watford is because we got under their skins. Like, obviously, we had the motors of quality in games as well, but this side can also do the rough and tough. But I think technically, this what is it, £22 million wage budget now, doubled since we got promoted. It's the quality's there now, and it's just getting a bit more in now. We're not asking for a lot.
Go on, Alex.
Yeah, look, I don't think it is what you would call your Millwall teams of the past. Like, if you think back to a back four at the time when you had the likes of Alan Dunn, Danny Shittu, Paul Robinson in it, people would go in with those full-blooded challenges. Even to a certain extent, you go back to someone like Mark Beavers or someone like that, he'd go in and really steamroll those challenges, or someone in midfield, a big general who would sort of man
Dave Livermore, Mark Bircham, all these players, exactly. All the typical Millwall kind of players. We had them for years and years and years,
Yeah, exactly. So you don't have that type of general type of player there now that is. But then again, in this day and age, you're not allowed to put in those types of challenges and stuff like that. But I do agree, we don't have that someone like I think you saw it when Jack Grealish came on in the derby, right? First thing he did, he got a foul. We don't seem to have that player who can just win a free kick and help it out in that type of way. You're right with George Saville in terms of
I was going to say, Bury.
You're right
Bury,
in that section
he does draw free
George
kicks,
Saville. He does, and I will, and I'll give Bury credit, right? I do think he does suffer a lot of unneeded pressure and stuff like that. But again, I think it will come with him if he develops. But in answer to the question as to whether it's a softer Millwall team, I think the game as a whole is softer. So in some ways, I would say yeah. But I do agree with Omar where he says that would this Millwall team beat other Championship Millwall teams? I think, yeah, it would.
I'll caveat that, though. The 2017-18 Millwall side with Tim Cahill signing back, that team would beat this Millwall team. But aside from that,
there's possibly a future show or two there, mate. Fucking hell, where we go. I mean, give us your thoughts. So you're listening to this. Give us your thoughts across Twitter, socials. If you're watching on YouTube, in the comments. I mean, give us a couple of era of teams what you think will possibly beat this one or won't beat this one. It'd be interesting to see what was.
My caveat.
Yeah, probably go from maybe go from the 2000. Go from 2000 onwards, I suppose. That way we sort of know those players then, doesn't it? It's
I'd like to see
isn't it?
Team.
You know them.
I'd like to see the team that got promoted when Robbo scored at Wembley against Swindon, and then with the first team in the Championship back that season. I'd like to see that team against our team now.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting game.
Yeah, that'd be a good shout. Yeah, something kind of stats. Right, Harry Connor, potential transfers and news about the surrounding area. Well, fucking Bermondsey's turning into a shithole. There's tower blocks being built everywhere. Old Kent Road's starting to look a bit like fucking Baghdad with the amount of buildings what are being built down. And other than that, I don't really know what else to tell you, fella. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where you. I don't know where you live, fella. But I'll suggest a trip round the area, and you'll see that what I'm telling you is gospel.
When you said Baghdad, I was thinking, where the fuck are you going with this one? But
I got there in the end, didn't I? Yeah. Potential transfers. Listen, the name of this episode, mate, is called "Has Millwall Signed Anyone Yet?" So the clue's in the title, mate.
It's annoyed me because
transfer.
His form's picked up for Southampton, but it sounds ridiculous to say because it's probably on 50 grand a week. But he was a bit part player till Nathan Jones went in. I'd have loved to see us gone. Right, Thoroughby's gone, 15, 20 grand freed up. Let's pay half Adam Armstrong's wages for the rest of the season or something stupid. Something ridiculous like that. That'll make us go, fuck me, here we go. But his form's picked up the last 3 or 4 games and Nathan Jones is having him. But if it was someone like that that's out of favour in the Premier League, that's on a big wage, you're going to pay maybe half his wages, maybe 60%, because they probably would want him off the books for the rest of the season. Let him be in a shop window or let him play well and they go back afterwards. We need that one signing.
You know what? I tweeted Chris Woods at Newcastle, and half people were lovely to say, "Yeah, great point." The other half was slagging me off. What I've been smoking.
We just
I have to say, you can't fault Chris Wood in terms of the form that he did when he was here. Was unbelievable.
But
he scored, what was it, 12 goals I think he scored.
He's obviously on a massive salary. He's not really going to match his wages. What I'm saying is, to your point, Omar, if Newcastle are going to bring some players in, which I'm sure they will do in this window and also in the summer, surely Chris Wood is someone who they want to put in the shop window. If he can score a few goals for us to help us get promoted, that's going to increase his value, and they can flog him off and sell him to someone else,
I think Chris Wood
I hate to dampen your parade, Joe, but I think he's going. I just think he's going to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah,
who's that? Chris Wood.
Yeah,
I saw that one.
Yeah, I saw it.
You're right with that sort of player, but I'm thinking Adam Armstrong. Like I said, it's been a bit part player at Southampton, probably on 50 grand a week. Someone like that. That's like who's done it in Championship, not really done it in the Premier League just yet. You can go in and grab, and it's like I would have even took someone like Andre Gray still. I'd still take Andre Gray at Millwall, to be honest. Someone that's like a bagsman at the Championship that gets the fans like. There might be a failure here, but at least give us that false optimism at least for a few games. Where we're like, okay, here we go. Like that signing that could spearhead us because look what Fleming's done to this team. When Fleming didn't play the first half at Sheffield United, you noticed the lack of quality. And we take
absolutely.
It's scary.
We need a player that's going to help us in this system. Right, wants to play. To this day, I haven't really talked about it properly about Voglsammer. What was the point of buying him? He's not going to play in that one lone striker role. He hasn't got the mobility or the speed to get beyond the defence or do anything with that. He's not really a winger. So what was the reason why I bought him for?
Did you have a bad experience at the Currywurst at the back of the South Stand or something? Oh, you're gunning for Voglsammer all of a sudden.
I'll tell you. It's like
go to a shit fireworks display. You pay your money and you sort of waiting there with your hot dog and your beer, looking up at the sky, and it's nothing fucking happens. It's just shit fireworks.
Let me just drop it. Hang on, one sec, Steve. I'll come straight to you. 1 sec. Let me just timestamp this because we do get watched by a few players. It's about 56.5 minutes in. If you can show this to Voglsammer and he sits in the West Stand, all right, lower. Go on, Steve.
I think on the transfer. Situation.
I've got a couple more points in a minute. So
the two players I would really like us to look at. One's possibly realistic. The other one now isn't. One is I think it's Evan Ferguson at Brighton. I think he's a really good young striker, but he's just gone into the Brighton team. He scored a couple of goals.
He's 18-year-old, isn't he?
Yeah. He looks the real deal. I think he's going to be a really good player for them. But again, had he have not scored 2 goals in 2 games for them, it might have been one that would have been a bit easier to do. And the other one, and we have sort of been linked with him, and there's been rumours, is the guy from Exeter, Nombe, who's got 11 goals, couple of assists. I started to look at watched a couple of highlights from just to see what this guy was like. So I knew nothing about him. It was just a name that appeared, but there seems to be a little bit more traction in it that perhaps we are interested in. He looks quite good. I know it's only highlight packages and you can't really, determine too much. As we saw, Joe's favourite Voglsammer highlight package looked the absolute real deal, and you can't always judge on those. But again, those sort of players, I think they're two that I would love. I'd love one of them coming through the door.
Did Liam Delap
last point?
Did Liam Delap find another club? Because I know he's got recalled.
Yeah, he's gone to Preston.
I'd love to
Yeah,
see
yeah.
that.
Preston on loan.
Why are Preston beating us this
But
injury? I mean, I know they're quite local, but
I said
Because we're Millwall.
the thing is, players, but just because a player becomes available, every fan goes, "Oh, we should sign him. We should sign him." He's from the north. He probably doesn't want to. He probably doesn't want to relocate to the south. Just because a player becomes available doesn't mean that he's going to go, "Oh, what's top of my list? Oh, I'm going to sign for Millwall." He's going to look for home comforts. He's going to look for certain things. So,
Especially
I think
younger
it's-
players will look
yeah.
for that as well.
Yeah,
No,
it's
yeah,
hard
They want to
to-
try and stay closer
Yeah.
to home and
It's-
stuff like that.
Anyway, I've got a couple more points, so fuck him. Let's carry on. Right, I've got a couple of points before we finish what come off Twitter, or else, I'm not going to get everyone. Mr. Hedge Pig 1. Why are we playing Bradshaw as a target man when he clearly isn't a target man?
that's a question for Gary
Joe
Rowett.
and me discussed this one in our show the other night.
Oh, but there we go then.
We
So,
did
Hedgehog, if you
discuss
listen back, you're going to have 45 minutes of it, all right?
we did discuss that, and we did think like
Did discuss Bury
just
as well
doesn't
for about
seem to be
25
making
minutes.
sense. It just doesn't seem to be making sense. You playing Bradshaw in that role when he's not got someone alongside him.
Like a
Yes,
Foley.
it worked perfect. If it was a Gregory, Steve Morrison situation, it worked fine. You'd have someone up there who could win the headers, and you could feed through for Broders. But he's not tall enough. He's not physical enough to be able to play that role.
Okay, so we all.
For his size and stature, he does do
He
a
tries.
bit. I think he's
He
probably
does,
the
he does,
best.
bless him. He
He's
does,
high.
He loves to
He's
try,
probably the best.
The trouble is, he'll probably win one header out of 10 if he's lucky, And if it does get to his feet, he loses it. He very rarely holds it anyway.
What annoyed me
right.
on Saturday is why did we not target their fullbacks for the long kicks? Why was he up against Fry and McNair all game and they just had a field day? I'm like, why don't we just tackle like the out wide areas and get Bradshaw to go out wide? I was thinking, why are we constantly doing this?
That's a question for Gary Rowett, that one.
But there you go. On the press conference on Saturday, you can ask that question.
I could do, yeah, you're right.
But actually, we'll come to that in a minute, right? We've got Grumpy Grimace Stuart Mace on Twitter. What said, in tight games with the remit of running at defences and no tracking back responsibility, is Tyra Bury the super sub we need? And why do we persist with long throws from our top goal scorer? Shouldn't he be in the box? Often the throw doesn't even beat the first man.
That's another one me and Joe discussed.
The throw-in.
You want to listen to the previous show? If you've not already listened to it, you want to listen to...
Minutes in, watch for 36 minutes in, we answer that question for you.
The long throw is...
Go on, Stephen.
Agree on all these points he's made there. Mr. Grumpy, what his name is. Completely agree with him. Throws, it doesn't make any difference. He's not exactly got a long throw on him. And the other question, what was the other point you raised?
Bury.
Oh, Tyler Bury. Is Tyrus Bury the super sub? You've already answered that, to be fair.
Yeah, he's an impact player at the moment, unfortunately.
You're in the haters' arms tonight, mate. Christ, you're having a beer in the haters' arms tonight.
Not enough, Mickey.
That's it. Stephen, go on, mate. You raise your point, and then I'm going to ask the last question before we're going to bring this to a show, or else we'll be here till next Tuesday.
Do you not think that the long throw is another thing that's just kind of desperate for... It's almost as if they're desperate for Fleming to be involved. Like...
Yeah, but he's taking the fucking throw.
Yeah, they're desperate for him to do something.
I'd rather
to
him be
get
at the
an
end of the
assist.
throw.
That's what I'm saying, but they're desperate for him to be involved in the game, so they get him on the long throw. Like from corners and set pieces, they put him on the edge of the box waiting for it to be cleared. Why aren't they doing that for throw-ins? Why aren't they getting him in the box? It's
Can't
almost
they
They're
get
as
someone
if
waiting
else
for
to
Ryan
practice?
Leonard
No,
to come
but
back
Fleming-
because he'll do the next long throws when he comes back.
Fleming. It's
I'd like
almost
to
as
know
if
who's telling Fleming, you know what, you've got a really, really long throw. You should use that throw. And he's gone, you think so? Yeah, go on. I tell you what, even use a towel, wipe the ball. Because someone's told him he's got a long throw. And I don't know who has told him.
I'm going to put it right out there. I reckon it's Adam Barrett.
Adam Barrett is in charge of set pieces. So
And there you go.
it could
You
well
see,
be
there
Adam
we
Barrett.
go. Right.
Adam Barrett is in charge of that.
Tony FT Gentleman. He's got a nice profile badge as well. He's got the Neil Harris at Watford celebration as his thing. Question for you boys. How can we get two up top, and why does Gary Rowett not seem to get the best out of more technical attacking players?
There's no pattern of plays this side. There is no pattern of play, which is why our technical players don't have a foothold in the game. That is the pure and simple reason. If you look at Nottingham Forest last year under Cooper, when they beat Tottenham at home in the cup, they played them off the pitch. There was a style of play. There was a well-drilled side. That's the reason why teams like Middlesbrough normally get a result against us, because they'll pass it around us, make it look easy. Giles will get out wide on the left, put a great ball in the box. He looked like a time and space because they've moved the ball quick. Our centre-halves can't move the ball quick enough either, which is probably why we don't have a style of play, because we don't have ball playing centre-halves. You give Hutchinson time on the ball, he'll do a great lofted ball over the top, looks superb. But if you put them under pressure, we can't move the ball quick enough, and we don't. So that's why there's no style of play this Middle team. But could you drill them into it? Could you drill them into it though? Probably.
Also, to the point though, Mark, Middlesbrough are very, very creative with their movement. Yeah, they're playing out of position and moving around. When you look at our players, we're very disciplined. You know, very rare you see players moving around, playing different position or changing, or Fleming coming out on the flank instead. You know, we seem too
Very
regimented.
structured.
We're very easy to pick up. And if you're playing against Millwall, you know exactly where our players are, rather than kind of, you know, that player for Middlesbrough, the striker, what's his name?
Akpom.
Yeah, one minute he's on the right wing, he's on the left wing, he's playing centre mid. Then how can you mark a player like that? There's such great movement and you know and fluency in their play, their pattern of play. It's very hard to play against players. They're very creative, aren't they? You know.
I think as well with the two up front, getting the two up front, and I often say this at home in home games. If you need to go two up front, the chances are you're either behind or drawing. That's why you would want to go two up front. So the way to do it
also you lose the width, don't you? If you're playing a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 or 4-5-1, you're not gonna. You need a one strike. You can't do two strikers unless you go 4-4-2.
I honestly think at home, if you're drawing 0-0, 1-0, and you're trying to win the game, you don't need Billy Mitchell and George Saville in the middle of the pitch. If you're going in the last 20 minutes and you're trying to win the game, one of those, I would say Saville, because I think Mitchell's got the legs. It gets Saville to be the enforcer for 70 minutes, and he's the man to go off and go two up top. That's how I would do it in games where
and just
you need
leave
to
one
win.
midfielder.
Yeah, because we often say I know Rowett doesn't like to do it, but we want to win the game. You don't need two defence-minded midfielders when you're 1-1 at the Den. Not at 1-1 at the Den with 20 minutes to go. You don't.
I think you'd get a better chance of Rowett going 3-5-2 than you would.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
No,
absolutely.
he'll take
You
off.
wouldn't sacrifice in a midfielder.
He'll take off Saville.
The best way to go two up top. A good point there, Alex, and just to what you're saying there, Stephen. The best way to go two is to go back to the old 3-5-2 formation. Sacrifice the wingers, the wide attacking players. Use your wing backs to give you the width, and then go two with Fleming behind them in the team.
Go on, Omar. Tell him what's going to happen, Omar. Tell him how it would happen.
This is what Rowett would do, though. He'll take off Saville and bring on George Evans, who is the slowest playing midfielder you'll ever see in your life. Bring on Evans at centre half and then sacrifice the midfielder and ask him to ping the ball, because you give Evans time and space on the ball. He'll ping that ball on a sixpence. But he brings him on midfield, and he's the slowest going midfielder I've ever seen in my life at the Den. I'm like, what is going on? He was slower than Liam Trotter. He just loses the ball. It's like, I'm like, you put him under pressure. He's like, he just plays in slow motion. That's
you give him time. He's great, isn't he? You give him time on the ball, he's fantastic.
And when he brings on midfield, it's the most annoying thing in the world. I'm like, just bring him on. If you're pacing the game, take off Cooper or Hutchinson and let him ping the balls from the back, because he can do defensive work as well.
I think we did that once at home. Do you remember we did that once at home? I can't remember when it was now, but he came on. It was questioning why did they take the defender off where it was and put him on, but that was for that reason. We were literally captain in their half, weren't we? Yeah. And we did someone at the back just to sort of ping these balls over. He was doing it really well for the last 10-15 minutes. He did a job for us.
Well, one more thing.
I found him better as a centre half than he is as a midfielder. I think that's a clear evidence.
It's a subject for another day anyway, but I really hope we sign Jamie Shackleton, because I think there's a real player there long term for us.
I like him.
I love Jamie Shackleton. Because when I see him come on, I hope he gets a run of games. But if it's going to get a run of games, there's got to be injuries, which is the only thing. Because you can't take out Mitchell or Saville. He likes Styles, but I'd love to see Jamie Shackleton get a run of games, because I think he could be a great signing for us if we sign him. By the way,
there we go. Right, that's it then, gents. I'm going to pull it to an end. You have a minute each to say anything you want to say. I'm going to start with you, Stephen, and work back round, because it's the birthday boy and he's got to end it. Plus, it's his show, so that's it. Stephen, you got a minute. What do you want to say, mate? Final words.
Hopefully, by the time the Cardiff game comes around, we'll have actually been linked with someone, and we'll have some new faces in at the Den. I think the Cardiff game is really where we have to be picking up 3 points as well. After a couple of lacklustre performances, that's the game now we really have to be winning for me.
Anything else? Done that in about 25 seconds, so I'm happy with that. But, yeah.
I think Joe's been really, really harsh on Voggy this
I agree with that.
I think if he was given a run of games through the middle, I do think we might see a little bit more out of him. I do get that he can be very frustrating, but I feel like you've just got a personal vendetta, Joe. Just let it go, mate. Just let it go.
That's it,
He had a dodgy
Alex.
co-work, I'm telling you. Dodgy
No, that's
co-work.
it. Yeah, that's it. Alex, final wording for you. Again, you've got a minute, mate, to vent your spleen. Off you go. Do it now.
No, look, I think Cardiff is a big one. I think in terms of the season as a whole, I think Cardiff is a big one. We've got to go there. We're going to have to show a lot more than what we did at Borough away, I think, in terms of going out and trying to win the game against a team who are down the bottom, struggling, no manager, no form of direction or anything. So it's going to be key. I agree with Stephen. I think Joe has been harsh on Voggy. And believe it or not, he's only scored over double digits in 4 seasons in his entire career. He's only scored 67 goals in his career, so he doesn't score many. He's not a prolific striker. Some people seem to think he might be. But no, Cardiff is massive. And my feeling is, hopefully, surely, there'll be someone in the door before them.
Well, there we go. Right then, Joe. Put your pint down in the haters' arms. What you got to say, fella? You've got a minute. Off you go.
Well, first of all, I'm very sorry, Stephen and Gracie, for my detrimental comments made against Voglsammer. But fuck him. He don't fucking nothing attack. He doesn't score any goal. Doesn't create any assists. What I've seen of him, he's fucking useless.
Hang on, Joe. One sec, Joe. One sec.
I don't know about Mickey. Okay, I thought I'm on the Big Brother chair here. So he doesn't offer us anything in the attacking third. Okay, he doesn't do anything for me. Bury, I apologise. He's a good player. He just needs to show a bit more commitment, a bit more aggression, and get stuck in, get involved a bit more. Show that he wants to win a fucking game. What else? I want us to sign a player. Hopefully, something announced this week. Looking forward to the Cardiff game on Saturday. I know I've got Mickey.
You got 4 seconds.
And let's
4 seconds before adverts.
Win against Cardiff and fuck Mon Romeo and everyone else with it.
Oh shit! Yeah, we got that. Right then, birthday boy, you got yourself a couple of minutes, mate, to say whatever you want to say and air whatever you want to say. And yeah, whatever you want, mate. It's good to have you back. Happy birthday, fella.
Thank you.
Can you believe in another 5 days we would have been doing this fucking madhouse? Yeah, 3 days. 3 days?
No, 3 years,
Yeah.
right? 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, 2020. Well, no, yeah, 2020. And in 5 days' time, we would have been doing this mad shit for fucking 3 years.
I don't have
And we
anything
thought
to
we'd do lockdown, didn't it? We thought we'd do lockdown, and we're just getting into it. We started small. Remember the first one we did in a pub with my pal Peter and his boy.
We were drunk in there the other night, the Sydney Arms. Yeah.
Yeah. We've done it in a pub, mate.
Yeah,
Madness.
someone get Mickey a handkerchief. You're going to get
Yeah,
teary-eyed.
no, listen, I think it's good. 3 years in, mate. We're
Is it,
fucking.
Mickey?
No, it's just. I just saw it the other day, mate. I was looking through something and I saw it and I just thought, fucking hell, really? 3 years? Fucking. do you know what I mean?
His Ehor mug now.
No, what you need is Omar needs a medal, mate, for putting up with me for fucking 3 years, mate. Text messages, WhatsApp groups, fucking emails, fucking phone calls.
I have to say,
if you
I've
want to
never
know,
known anyone to put me into so many WhatsApp groups.
It's very true. It's very true.
it is
Well
true,
done,
mate. It
guys.
is true.
Well done.
If
I
you
don't have a
want-
lot. I don't have a lot to sum up for this. To be honest, I think it's great to be back. Great show, and also it's going to be 0-0 on Saturday inevitably. I mean, it's my birthday weekend, Mill, so please just give me a goal to celebrate. I'll take it, but it's going to end 0-0. We never really win at Cardiff. We checked before the show. Last time we won there was 2005. I know we're going to do another show later this week to preview the game, but that's fresh in my mind. And yeah, hopefully we get a player in before Saturday, and fingers crossed we do. And if you're listening still, follow us and like, subscribe. There you go.
There we go. So what we learned tonight is there's no transfers. Bermondsey's starting to look like Baghdad, and Joe fucking hates Bury and Voglsammer. And other than that, hopefully you've enjoyed the two newcomers. You can see their faces. Hopefully you enjoyed them, and they'll be back regular. Hopefully, massive thanks to Stephen for doing the show last week. You know, if you want, vote now, and we'll let him do this Thursday if you want. Throw him right in it again on his own with the Cardiff fan. No, we got a Cardiff fan on the show on Thursday's show, which will be out Friday morning. This is out Wednesday. Much appreciated for listening. That's it from us. We'll see you again in a few days' time. Thanks for listening. See you again. Bye.